Thank you. It's great to be here with you guys today, and I'm excited. I work with young people. I run Camp Silversides out on Gull Lake. We're a kids' summer camp and a year-round retreat center, and so it's nice to have people that want to sit at the front. It's I'm a lot of people at the back, and can you hear me? Can we just turn that down a little bit? And so I'm just thrilled to be able to share about this trip. And it, you know, we went on this family vacation. Belize was never something that it's not been a bucket list item that we've had for a long time. It really came out of nowhere, and but it was just an absolutely incredible experience for every member of our family. And so this is the travel crew that we have. We got my wife, Erin, who's next to me over there, and she might look familiar to you. She works at the library here, and she was trying to keep it a secret that she went on this trip because whenever their bosses find out someone went on a holiday, they automatically get signed up for the travel talk. And so I was happy to I was very happy to stand in, and when we said we were going to do it, I was actually going to have my oldest daughter, Rachel, with me. She was a big part of this trip and is one of our subject matter experts to share on some of the things that we're going to do. So Rachel is in grade 12, graduating this year, and Naomi is in grade 9. And so that's our family. And traveling isn't something that's necessarily new, but this was something that was pretty different for us as a family. We used to be missionaries in Romania. We were there for 7+ years, and so we got to travel a lot just because we were living in Europe, and the world is very close to Europe. And so pretty much from Turkey west, we've got to spend lots of time with our kids when they were little. But as they were getting older, and we've been in Canada now for 6 years or so, we've been introducing them to parts of Canada, places we've never been, they've never been, and as Rachel's getting ready to graduate this year, it was just like, boy, it's time to give them a cross-cultural experience that's a little bit different. And so one of the things that we just started looking for is like, let's go somewhere where it's warm. Let's go somewhere where there's the sea, but then we had this really deep desire to experience history, ancient history, not just old buildings, but when the world began kind of stuff. And so as I just started researching and looking around, Belize just started checking all these boxes. And so before I go, have any of you here been to Belize? Awesome. This is so good. So we're going to get to compare some stories, and I hope you've been some of the places that we went to on this trip, and you see some familiar pictures. So this is where Belize is at. It's in Central America, obviously. It shares a very close border with Guatemala, just south of Mexico, and above Honduras. And here's a little bit of information, just some facts. So it was a British colony. Got its independence fairly recently in 1981. Sorry, just getting my notes up here. And but before it was called Belize, it was called British Honduras. And so it's an English-speaking country within Central America, the only one. It is a small country, 290 kilometers long, Edmonton to Calgary, 110 kilometers wide from here to Rocky Mountain House, a little bit more. But it's just this small, beautiful little country. It is expansive, though, once you get to the sea. That is where it makes up 400 keys. Is how you pronounce that. And it was just interesting because the capital is a new capital because it moved after a hurricane. And so it was flooded. This is in the 80s that it officially got moved over. And Belize is mostly jungle. But one of its traits is that second largest barrier reef in the world, which is a World Heritage Site. So, we're not one of those families that gets to travel a lot. And so I just wanted to throw this out there that as we go through these pictures that it's not like this was a real treat for us. And we saved every penny we could. And so this is us sleeping in an airport, just laying on the floor, getting our naps in. And this is how our family did it as we were going. We had multiple legs on our flights, and it just added to the adventure that we were going to have while we were there. So, we don't have any sound. I had this video here. How many of you have seen the movie Jurassic Park? Yeah. Who's the star of Jurassic Park? It's T-Rex, right? So we didn't know this until we got there, but one of the people we were visiting with there, they're like, did you know that the howler monkey was the basis for how T-Rex roars? And so as we're going through all of these next photos, you have to have in your mind, T-Rex is roaring. He's roaring outside where we're sleeping. He's roaring when we're walking. He is everywhere, and he is loud, and it is intimidating. And so these are the howler monkeys. They're not super big, but you hear them for miles and miles. And it just adds to the mystique of our experience while we're there. So, yeah, no sound. All right. So, our grade 12 student, Rachel, she is just in love with archaeology and with history. And so what drew us to going inland in Belize was that many of the Mayan sites are still accessible in terms of you can walk all over, you get to touch them, you can just kind of go and show up and be part of it. It's not, nothing is roped off. And so we wanted to take her to a place where she was going to get her hands able to touch these old places, these old buildings, get to walk up the stairs and hear the stories. And so this was our first day when we got there. And so this is Caracol, and this is the largest building in Belize. It is a very inaccessible place to get to. So we had about a 2-hour drive. It is only about 40 kilometers, but kind of from the nearest city. We had a 2-hour drive in a 4x4 vehicle taking us through rivers, creek crossings, just kind of going up and down roads. And the first stop you get to is a military outpost. And so it's very recent that the military doesn't escort you in and out because of just drug trade that they thought was happening, or immigration and stuff through Guatemala. And so we go through that checkpoint, and we're out there very early because you have to leave by 2 o'clock just because of the drive to get back to wherever you are. And so as we got to Caracol, they call this the Sky Palace. And what is really interesting about Caracol is that as an established city back in the Mayan day, this covered over 200 square kilometers of a city. And there was somewhere between 100 and 200,000 Mayans that lived in it, making up over 35,000 different buildings. And only 2% of it has been uncovered. And so they know the boundaries of it, they know where the buildings are, and pretty much everywhere you're going, you can kind of see mounds that have grown up over it, but it is still this untouched, undiscovered major city that they have there. And what's so interesting is that these are the same buildings. So we have kind of this one, and you can't even see what's up on top. And I haven't been to any other pyramids. I've been to the Mexico City ones, but not Egypt or anything. But that's just what it looks like kind of as you're walking up to it. And then you get there, and you get up on top, and there's this whole plateau up there, and there's more climbing to do. And in each of these plateaus, there's all kinds of rooms and places to go and things to investigate as you're going. And it looks like it's just a very nice way of getting up. but it is steep. It is hands down, and you're going up, and when you're coming down, you're either sitting on your butt to make sure you don't fall, or you are just taking it as slow as you can, excuse me, to make sure that you're not getting hurt as you go. And so all of this was just very interesting for us to get to see after driving out there. And it was just immaculate. You got the monkeys. This is a country full of birds. If you're a birder, this is the toucans, all kinds of parrots that are down there. And you see them everywhere. And so it's a place that's alive. And following our explorer, she just kind of, there's all these big buildings and then the trees that are around. And so she wanted to just kind of go see what was going on at these other places. And so we followed her, and we came and saw this hole that was there, and it was surrounded by caution tape. And so we couldn't quite get to it. There was one guy that was just kind of sitting on the outside, and so we just kind of wandered over, and there wasn't a lot that was over there. It was mostly just kind of overgrown. And what's going on over here? And he's like, oh, nothing. And it's like, well, what's in the hole? And again, he says, oh, nothing. And then we hear out of the hole, I'm down here. And there was this wonderful person who was sitting on the floor in there, and her name is Miss Mo. And Miss Mo is an archaeologist who's been working in the Mayan industry for 40-some years. And so she said, why don't you guys just come on under that caution tape, and you guys come over and see what I'm doing and take a look at what we're doing. And so for the next hour, 2 hours, we just got to sit and visit and learn about the science of archaeology, the tools of archaeology, why they're doing it the way they're doing it, what they're looking for, how they're doing it. And it was just this wonderful exchange of Miss Mo with all of us, but especially Rachel, learning about archaeology. And so it was just such an incredible time to get to meet her and see this dig in action. It was so much more than we could have ever imagined as we were there. And so then as we got to go to other places, we were kind of seeing work in different stages and different progress. And what adds to the neat story of this with our trip, it's that, so we were there in February, and in July, there was a big discovery in that exact hole. And it was the tomb of Tegab Chak, who was the founder of Karakol, the first ruler of the dynasty that was there. And so we had seen it, and she took us. She's like, it was just this incredible time, because she's like, see how the wall, all these rocks are kind of piled regular. She's like, but then she took us to a corner, and she's like, see how these ones look like they don't quite fit like the others. And so this is what I'm working on. And when she eventually got those out, it was this discovery. And it is the most significant discovery of a Mayan ruler in 40 years that she has had, and that the doctors that are involved with it and the researchers have had. And so we've just been able to read so much about it and have this firsthand connection to what went on. And so it was just this really neat side thing that just came up from us being adventurers on that day. And so if you just go doing some more research on it, there's going to be a movie coming out about it in 2026 that is focused on this discovery at Karakol, and it's just lots of insight into the ancient Mayan times. So that was Karakol. That was the first half of our first day in Belize. And so on our way back, we got to make a couple of stops. And the first one is at this place just called Rio Pool. So mixed in, these are just kind of the fun parts of being a family. But what I loved about this. And so many of the places that we have traveled and stuff, it's like, oh, should we swim in that? Is it clean? Like, this was just pristine, clean water to swim in. And there was waterfalls. There was just all these different pools. And it's just kind of a short walk down. And then you just get to play and do whatever. And it was a wonderful experience just to, again, you have the howler monkeys, you have the birds that are chirping, you have this jungle setting, and then you're swimming in. It's Tarzan in real life is how you feel. It's I know I don't look like it, but when I'm in the Rio pools, it's very, man, I am conquering this. So it was a lot of fun. And then we kept driving a little bit, and this one took a little bit more access to get to off the road, but it was another just incredible place that we hiked into. And you can't really tell from the pictures, but that's about a 150-foot waterfall, they say. And it's just this gorgeous setting that has a big swimming area in front. There's a separate pool that's kind of in behind where the waterfall is, and you can just go and there's hardly anybody there. There was maybe 6 or 7 other people that were down there, and we're just swimming away. And of course, we found a way to climb up there and jump in. And while Rachel likes archaeology, it's Naomi, who's our youngest, who likes the adventure of things, and so she got up there too. Nervously fell. She was one and done with that. But again, it's wonderful going to these places, and we've commented lots, even just being in Red Deer, when we go down to the river, like, boy, this water is so clean. Like, it's so wonderful. And to get to travel to other places and just swim that freely in these rivers and creeks is just a very special privilege that we didn't take for granted on this trip. And so these places they're in kind of provincially, it would be called the Cayo district, and the biggest city that's near it is San Ignacio, which is only about 30,000 people, and it's a really cute little town. And we stayed in a village outside of it called Cristo Rey. And so as we were putting pictures together, I was like, this was just an Airbnb. And so I'm like, we didn't take any pictures of like the kitchen, because it only has an outdoor kitchen. And it has nothing inside. And so we would eat outside, we would cook outside, and all kinds of animals would be coming through. They had us just kind of like coffee grounds you throw in the grass, and then these agoutis, they're called. They're big rodents, but it's not like a mouse or a rat coming through. It's closer to a rabbit, but it's a rodent. And they're just eating these kinds of things, and they have, I don't know, hundreds of different types of trees that are on there and that we get to go look at. So we're looking at pineapples and how they grow, and our big discovery was allspice. It's fall time. You all cook with allspice. Do you know how many different spices are in allspice? 1. It's a type of tree. And so it's like we pull off these allspice leaves and break them, and that's what it is. And so it was neat just to get to learn that, and fruit, of course, and all of that. And it's right on a river. And we tried sleeping overnight in the hammocks, but they're better just for chilling. By my estimate. All right. So this was coming up. I'm going to spend a little bit more time kind of going through this part of our adventure. And it was something that both National Geographic and Discovery Channel rank as #1 on one of their lists. What is the list? It's of the most sacred caves in the world. And so you can just start to imagine what type of place this would be. And this was just an absolutely incredible day for us to go to. And so the name of it, they call it for short, it's the ATM cave. Acton Tanikal Muknal. It's the cave of the stone sepulchre, the most sacred cave in the world. And so this was just an absolute, I had no idea what we were getting into for this day, but I'm going to take you through it. And so to help us experience this day, it's obviously a very regulated place. And so you can only go in with certified guides. And so we had one, his name was Patrick Bradley. And so he is a Mayan expert, he's an archaeologist, and he has one of the privileged spots, which means we were up at about 5 in the morning to get out there really early, and kind of before some of the other groups start to come in. And so the whole idea of this tour with him was to put us into the mindset of the early Mayans that would have used this cave. And what were they using this cave for? And so it starts off with a 3-4 kilometer hike that involved going through the jungles with the howler monkeys. Of course, we're crossing rivers, and it's a beautiful day. It's all of these things, and we're just kind of getting excited for what we are about to experience. And this is the entrance. I think I mixed up one of the slides, but we'll get to it. So this is the entrance. And so we get there, and so he starts to set the stage for us that this all kind of came up, that they viewed this in the Mayans as the doorway to the underworld, where the rain god Chak lived. And so it was during a big drought of many years that this cave was used. And so as we're going through it, it is taking us into the idea that this is what we're in here to look for. We're looking for Chak. We're looking for where his altar might be. We're looking for where he's going to reside. And it's not all lit up, you have fire. And you're probably in some sort of a altered state by something that you're using. And so how do shadows play into what you're seeing, what you're looking for, what you're hearing, what you're seeing? And so just outside of this, we get there, and it starts with jump on into the water. And for the next hour and a half, we are swimming, we're climbing over boulders, we're just kind of going through all kinds of tight spaces, big caverns, trying to get back to where Chak is. And so in many ways, it's a cave like any other cave. If you've been to any sort of tours or just out hiking, when you see things, there is all the stalagmites and stalagmites and water dripping, and it's just a regular cave in so many ways. But as I said, we get into these further caverns that are near the back, and it's time to start looking for the God. And so what's interesting, none of these pictures are ours. You're not allowed to bring cameras in. And by the time we get, I don't remember there being a ladder, but there might have been. I think we just were kind of boosting people up, to be honest, when we were back there. You have to take your shoes off, and you're just wearing socks. And then you keep going. And that is when you are kind of nearing these sacred places. And it's their way of just making sure that we are preserving it. So, it's been drought for many years. And this doorway to the underworld has been found. And so they're trying to find the God, and like any God, you're trying to find out, what do they like? What will get their attention? What will get them to hear my plea? And so we're a couple hours into this place, and you come upon the first spot that looks like an altar when you're there. And as I said, like with the flames and the shadows and stuff, it was just really remarkable how we would stand in places and we would turn off our lights and he would just use his to show. And it's like, boy, you could see how if you're looking, that looks like a face. That looks like somebody who is present. It's a person that's there. And so this first picture is the first altar that we came to. And what is here is lots of incense. And so it's different offerings that were brought in. And so even just thinking back to how far they would have carried things, that we had to go through all the water, all the climbing, all the tight spaces, they had gone in and there was lots of pottery that had these burning incense remnants that they could show. And so they had been trying for a significant amount of time to have this God hear them through their offerings, and he never did. And so they had to then go further. It's like, okay, well, this isn't the altar and this isn't the offering. And so you hike into the cave further, and the middle is where you start finding remnants of them burning things like grains, different foods that they would have brought. And so they're improving what they're offering to the God, hoping that he's going to hear to send rain, and still nothing. And so you keep going further, and again, you kind of come up to another level. It's another altar type of spot. There's more shadows that are around, and now we start to see the first evidence of animals that were brought in and sacrificed and burnt within here. And so as we're going through all these things, it's again, he's doing really good at just helping us hear what the heart of the Mayan was and what they were asking for and how they were hoping it and just needing more, that there's desperation that becomes involved in this. And so still nothing. And so as we continue on deeper now into the cave, we come to the first evidence of human sacrifice being involved. And so it starts out, and they take us through the whole idea of bloodletting. And so it's just fingers that would be cut off and left, or hands that get cut, and blood that's kind of left to try to wake up the god and get his sacrifice received that's there. And as we continue on, you start to see, and in the second picture especially, you see the first evidence of a human that has been sacrificed to try to get the attention of the god. And so we're going through, and it's the fifth stage, and there's all kinds of different evidence of there's kids, there's young people, there's women that they've tried, there's men, there's boys. It's this whole idea of different people that have been required to try to get the attention of the god as we're going through. These are just a couple more, and they're really good at pointing them all out and explaining kind of how they've identified them. And what makes it all very interesting is, just like the way that caves drip their minerals, is these have all been preserved so well because of that calcification, mineral deposits that have fallen on the different remnants that are in there. Still, the god hasn't heard them. There's still a drought. There's still a need. And so sweet fragrance hasn't worked. Our grains haven't worked. Our animals hasn't worked. We've tried just dripping our blood. We've tried cutting off our fingers. We've even killed some people from our tribe and still nothing. And so as we continue on, now we come to a change in their approach, and it's a significant one. This is a monkey emblem that is connected to a royal family. And so the shift is we're going to need royalty. The sacrifice is going to have to be better than that. It's going to have to be someone who's a king or part of the royal family. And so the cycle starts all over again. Of now it's a king that's coming in and they're bringing the different offerings that are going on out there and still nothing. And you go further and then you have kind of some of the bloodletting parts of the royal family, and then it goes further and still nothing that's there. Until you get to the very, very back of the cave. And so when we're back here, we've walked a long way, we're in bare feet, and you come to this just perfectly preserved skeleton. And you can't see it in the pictures, but it has a flat forehead. And what it was is that this was the final sacrifice that took place in this cave, and it was a baby that was selected from birth from a king. And it was set apart by putting this board on its head to make its head stay kind of flat so that they'd always know who it was, and it grew and it aged. And then it was brought in here for this purpose. This is what that baby was born for. Was for this sacrifice to come in. And so you go there, and they've analyzed even just the way that it's laid. It's this person wasn't put there and killed there. They were put there and knew what they were there for. And they fell and died in that place. And it was a very overwhelming day. And it was, but as we were coming out of the cave, and there was 2 other people that were part of our group, and it didn't feel intrusive. It didn't feel like we were invading. It was like this is obviously a very significant place, and it just overwhelmed us at what we were seeing and what we were hearing. And so we talked about kind of just the idea of how would the Mayans feel when they were in it. And as we were at the farthest in the cave, at the very, very back, it's like many of us were just like, man, we're so tired. We're yawning. We've been swimming in water, but we're just like ready to go to sleep. And this cave doesn't have 2 entrances. It has a spring that puts water out at one end. And so the further you go in, the less oxygen that you have. And we're just in these tight caverns, and we're just burning through the oxygen. And it's just draining us and wearing us out. And so again, we had headlamps, but you imagine with a fire, how much quicker all of those sorts of things would feel and impact you, and your desperation to have these things. And so this was the ATM excuse me, cave. And they think that this was like a mid to late teen is the idea behind it. And they've gone back and forth on if it's a guy or a girl. It was thought to be a girl for a long time, but the most recent sort of thoughts around it is that it was actually a male that was sacrificed in there. And so the total number of humans that have been sacrificed in there, they don't have a record of, but this one is just really set apart. It's the furthest one in the back. It's got those royal pieces of pottery that are around it, and then the forehead thing that really sets it apart to make it significant. And then it's just preserved very well while you're in there. And so then it was a, yeah. Yes. No, our guide, before when you were allowed pictures, he has a catalog of photos, and so everybody that goes, he sends them to us since he knows we can't bring our camera in. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like our kids were 16 and 13, but again, it comes across as gruesome or I don't know, dark, but it didn't have that feel in it. It was just I feel that the guide that we had, the way that he was explaining it to us, the way that he was guiding us through this experience really helped us just to experience it from the point of view of the Mayan. What they were looking for, that there's desperation. And if we go back into 300 to 500 to 700 AD, we know that this is the world. And so it was just an incredible experience. And so that was the end of day 2. We were there for 21 days. No, I'm kidding. But it was 2 super full days. And so as we began day 3, we were trying to process everything that we had experienced. And so we had this. We knew that we were coming here. And this is called Zanantinich, more Mayan ruins. This is the 2nd tallest building in all of Belize, and it still is. And so just kind of looking for a lighter day. We're going to get a tour guide today at the door. We're going to let them talk. I was really hoping that we would find a lady that would, because I'm the only guy, and so a lady to talk with Rachel and Naomi and Aaron and entertain them as we kind of walk through. And so we got here, and as we're trying to get in, there's the guides are lined up, but there was only one left. Not the best one, if it's the only one left. But it was, so he comes and I'm like, is there a lady that could take us instead? I'd really prefer that. And so he answered, he's like, no, everyone else already has a tour in there. And his English wasn't very good. And like, well, will it be very long? Could we just wait for one? And like, no, they'll have to wait behind me anyway. So we took our tour, and his name was Mesh. And so Mesh, as we started walking and getting in there, this is Mesh in the blue. He started every sentence he had with, my father-in-law, the shaman. And all he had was story after story. And so it was good, but it just wasn't what we needed on that day or what I was looking for after the cave. And so he was just getting into all the legends of the Mayan. He was a Mopan Mayan, and this is Mesh. And so he was telling us how they come to his father-in-law, the shaman, and the dads, and they're like, there's a boy who's interested in my girl. I need you to do something. And so he takes what he needs, and then the black jaguar comes at night and steals them away. And it's all these stories from Mesh. And it's just kind of going on and on. And so we just kind of, before we got to this point, he kind of, he just wanted to talk to me, and I didn't want to talk to him. I'm a very nice person. I was feeling really full. And so he was talking to us, and then he kind of just before this point, he's like, he's taking us through these different things. And so this is on the back of the previous, this is the front, and this is on the back side. And so this is kind of a history of the connection between the royal families, the cosmos, different religions and historical events. It's kind of just a whole history of this area and different things that have taken place that were there. And so he was talking too about just human sacrifice and the role that it played, and how they would do all these sorts of things with the Mayans. And then it was just very interesting because he stopped and he said for hundreds of years, this is what the Mayan believed, that we had to kill each other and bring sacrifices, and it was the only way to get God to hear us. And he just switched it. He said, but we only had half the truth. He said, the parts that we got right was that there was going to have to be a sacrifice, there was going to have to be a human sacrifice, and there was going to have to be a royalty sacrifice. And he says, but what we have learned since then is that Jesus is the sacrifice that came. And so it was just a really interesting connection. And I don't know where you lie in terms of those sorts of ideas, but it is an interesting thing. And so it changed our visit with Mesh. All of a sudden, it was like, okay, so you're not just going to tell us stories. Can you help us understand more? And so then, while we see all the tour guides, they all have nice, he has a t-shirt, they have like official shirts, Belize tourism, and they're explaining everything. He takes us into the jungle, and he says, let me show you how the Mayans have lived in the jungle for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, he's pulling out seeds and berries and leaves and grinding them up, and he's like, you can eat this, and you can taste this, and this uses it to heal it. And all the other tours are going on, and we're just learning all about the Mayan way of life that much of them still practice today. And it was a very interesting tour. So we ended up having a good time with Mesh, and are thankful for him. And to get to Zanantinich, you take a hand crank ferry across to get to it. That's what that is. And again, first class travel all the way for my family. So we were leaving Zanantinich, and I saw a local person eating something that looked delicious. And I said, where do you get that? And so she pulled me aside and kind of pointed up to a hill and got me to focus in on the right house and said, I got it from there. And so we just walked up that hill and found that house and walked into the backyard. And there was this family cooking up a whole bunch of tamales. And we sat down. We said, we hear you have the best food in Belize. And we sat down at a table in their yard, and we ate with them, and it was just a wonderful time. And so when you talk of the hospitality of people, some strangers showing up saying, I heard you cooking good food today, I think that gives them a good indication of what it is. So that was a lot of fun. And that brings us to the end of our jungle experience. And so that was 3 days of just incredible experience, giant iguanas all over the place. This is a spider monkey, and so they were crawling around everywhere as well, and the howler monkeys. And so we were now heading to the sea. And this was just a short stop. We only went for 1 day, but it was a really interesting discovery, is what I'll say. So this is a town called Hopkins. It's right along the sea. It's a small town, and it is the home to the largest Garifuna population in Belize. And so I didn't know what any of that meant or who that was. I've never heard about it. And so this is how they came to be, and this is Just one of their traditional meals that I'm eating, lots of coconut, ground up plantain, and then just fish. But so how the Garifuna came to be is that they were slaves that were shipwrecked during the slave trade that ended up on St. Vincent. And there they intermingled with the natives of St. Vincent. And when British came and wanted to colonize it, they were fighting back against them. And so they were evicted from the island of St. Vincent. And they all ended up in Rotan to start with. And from there, which is in Honduras, and from there they've kind of just moved into different populations along the coastline, primarily of Belize and Honduras. And so what's different is if you've been to, you can picture Mexican and Guatemalan, there's a very Mexican look that we have. But when you get into the Garifuna, it's a very African look that they have. And so it's almost like a Rastafarian type of culture. They're laid back, they're very artistic. Music is a big part of what's going on within their culture. And so we spent one night, 2 days just kind of there experiencing them, and it was just another neat way of getting to know the country. And so of all of the citizens of the country. Picture big enough for you to see the highlight of Belize? I had to throw it in for this. This is the Hopkins Community Library. Yeah. So just as we were out walking, and what was interesting is after we came back, it's not this one, but we met a lady in Red Deer here who goes to Belize once a year to help a library in how it runs. She brings books and that's just kind of, she's taken that on as a project, and so yes, wherever we go, we'll find the libraries. But now it's time to go to the sea, and if any of you have been to the Caribbean or the Indian Ocean, we've spent time in the China Sea, and I love the water, and I love what's under the water. And so knowing that the barrier reef there, it's a long way offshore, and so Belize isn't known as a country where you just kind of from the mainland you have just all this sea life that's there. It is out on the islands that are some are a long way, some are close. And so we got on this boat here, and it took us to a magical place. This is Tobacco Key. And so it got its name from pirates of the Caribbean that smuggled tobacco. Not the movie, but it's in the Caribbean. So it was originally just kind of a hideout and a stakeout for pirates. And that was what it was most known for. And so it was an hour. It is right on the barrier reef, and it's just the size of a football field. And so there are 4 very small establishments that kind of host people on it. I don't think any of them can host more than 40 people. And so it's just this really tiny island that you come to. And as soon as you get there and your bags are unpacked, they take you for a walk around the whole thing to kind of show you where everything is. And it is just an idyllic place to be. From this town is called Dangrija, which is just about 20 minutes from Hopkins. Yeah. And so it is the type of place where you can just look into the water at any moment and the stingrays are swimming by. And you can sit in the water and they come right over top of you. It has out to the east, so where the sun rises, you see nothing but open ocean. To the west, where the sun sets, there's a few islands that you kind of see, but you kind of get the both. and no matter if the wind is coming from what direction, you can just go to the other side of the island and you're out of the wind. You get a mask and a snorkel when you arrive, and you can just walk in the water, and away you go, and you're on the reef, and you are, we saw seahorses, which I had never seen before. There's an infinite amount of fish, lots of large fish. There were people that were staying there that had brought their own fishing rods, and they would just wade out in the water, and they're catching fish just right from there and letting them go. And so just a really beautiful place. It has two bars that are there, and so we went to one. They're on each side of the island. Each of the places, ours was called Paradise Cove. When it was time for a meal, we would eat with everybody who was staying there, and they would blow a big conch shell, and you could hear it throughout the whole island. And oh, that's our meal, and off we would go, and we would eat, and it would have fresh fish that they would catch, and they just have a great team of nationals that are there working. And it's one of those. This is off grid, and so all the water is filtered, and lots of needs to be shipped back to land or just taken care of. And so we had such a good time. I think we were here for 3 days, 2 nights. We didn't get one of those over the water bungalows. We had this. It was inland and second floor, but again, it was just wonderful to get to walk around and see it all. And so you just go grab a coconut whenever you want one. It's a great place to fall in love again. That's the middle picture. And and then I don't know if you guys have traveled in some of these markets where you see those big conch shells and they're for sale. And it's like, man, they must be so rare. And how do you ever find them? They are everywhere on Tobacco Key. There are like millions of them everywhere. And it was conch season. And so they're out fishing for them, and they just throw them up there. And so they've done a good thing in some of those tourist markets to make you think you're getting a real treasure, but it was crazy to see how many there are while they're out there. And so again, just for us as a family, for our first time of snorkeling with the girls, getting them their chance to just discover how much is under the water, and just warm water all the time, and even at night. I mean, there's no internet out there, and so you're watching fish at night, and there's some bioluminescent floating along that you see in different places, and it's just very dark, and the number of stars that you see, and just a wonderful, wonderful place. And so, yeah, there's a closer up picture of the over-the-water cabanas that they had there, and just the size of it. So a really neat place to discover and see what it would be like to be on a deserted island is kind of the idea that we had with it. But we had to head back into the mainland, of course, and so this is Placencia, which is it's a big peninsula that runs just kind of more in the southern part of Belize. And the picture on the left over there is the world's narrowest main street. Yeah, so we have things like the Glendon Pierogi, and they have the world's narrowest main street. And so it was fun to walk it. It's a coastal town, of course, and again, just lots of artisan stuff that were there. But with Belize and the barrier reef being so far away, it is really set up for excursions. And so if you want to go to some of these snorkeling things or diving or the fishing, it's kind of, you always need to find somebody to take you. And so this was the excursion that we picked to end our trip. And this took us out to just a very small island. Like, it is as wide as this room. It's long, but it's just this skinny thing. And so we went out for a scuba diving day. And we got to do 2 dives that were out there. And again, just the way that they take care of you with bringing food along and meals and supplying all these things. But just, it was a tremendous ride. So this is Silky, and it is a wildlife preserve. So there's a person from the government that lives on the island, and they come do some education about the research that they are doing on the island, how they're working to preserve the coral reef and whatnot that is there. And we got just the treat of the island is covered in the hermit crabs. They're just kind of everywhere. And so for people from Alberta, those are just lots of fun to, wow, I mean, we're walking in the beach in our bare feet, and we got to watch out for the crabs. And then it was just, the shoreline was just full of all these nurse sharks. And so they're just swimming around, looking for everything. And so to get to just see things like that so easy, I mean, it's taking it for granted, like how we see deer, I guess, around here. That it's just a common kind of thing. But it was great to get to experience that and to see it. And so then we did 2 dives. All of us did 1, and then just 3 of us in the afternoon. And our fun story from the dives, we were just kind of going along, and so those nurse sharks are everywhere, but they're nothing to worry about. But we had a fairly large reef shark come, and a reef shark's a real shark. They're a predator one. They eat people. And so it saw us from quite a ways away and decided to come and check us out. And once it saw, it decided it needed a couple looks. And so it just started circling us. And so there's the 3 of us and our dive master that's down there. And we're waiting for him to do something heroic, but he's just very calm. And then the next thing we realize is that there's only 2 of us that the shark is circling, because both Aaron and Naomi have pretty much made it to the top again, and they've just gotten out of Dodge. And so it just kept circling, and eventually it moved on. But again, those are just such fun experiences to have, and stories to have that are just, they're magical to me to get to experience. So it was just great being in the water out there. It's very clean, and again, with people not living near or on the barrier reef, it's in good condition, and they take very good care of just access to it. It's all controlled, and so just a wonderful place to go and see. And no matter where you go, find books. And so this was in Placencia, just getting some more reading in while we were out there as we could for Rachel.